Meeting in the skies. Meeting in the skies.
Hey, welcome guys. So good to see you again.
Guys.
Well, I'm seeing the beautiful Flo. I'm not seeing Simon. He's on the phone with us again from the airport.
Hey,
This
Simon.
high-flying man.
Hi guys,
God
know
bless
your
her, where you
photographs,
going?
You being who you are.
You hear that? She calls you blesser now, ever since you offered her seedlings.
Seedlings are Minute Maid.
Was it the Minute Maid? The Minute Maid. Yeah, you're blessed.
So Flo and I are on the Skies rooftop again. We're looking out over.
We are
the
eating
city.
cake.
Oh man, I have this passion fruit cheesecake from Skies Hotel. It is so delicious. Here, try it.
Okay.
Sorry, not you,
thirsty.
Simon. Just Flo.
Enjoy my share, please. I'm happy to relinquish that.
Yeah. So how are you doing? You're off to somewhere?
Yes, I'm now en route to Nairobi for a meeting. I can't complain because I try not to. It's probably going to be some fun, most of it. Then there will be the bits that will just be annoying, but I'm used to that.
Well, good luck keeping a positive attitude.
Yeah, positive all the way, all the time. Mm-hmm. Every which way.
So Flo, how's your week been? Do you have a positive attitude? I see you have cake in your mouth, so that's gotta help.
Yeah, the cake is doing good, but my last week was, I can't say it was uneventful. There was nothing.
No, Flo, don't tell lies. Your week was great.
It was.
Go
There
on.
was
Tell
no
us.
event.
Tell us. You had us following you taking photographs. Tell us about all those photographs.
Okay, I did this school campaign for Safe Border. Where
I saw you in the paper taking a selfie.
Yeah. First of all, they put me in the papers for Safe Border, still a Safe Border event. Mm-hmm. And then every weekend, for the past 3 weekends, I've been going so early with Safe Border guys, and we go to different places in Kampala and take pictures.
So were you on a border or you entered a van with a Safe Border guys?
We go around with Safe Border.
On the border.
On a border, on a Safe Border?
Yeah, on the border.
With a Safe Border helmet?
Yes. And it's like a squad of like 30 people on Safe Border. So people, when we kulumba the place, people are wondering like what's going on? Who are these people?
I would hate to be driving an N30 Safe Borders or any other border for that matter shows up on the road.
So yeah, we've been to cool places. We've been to the Uganda Palace. We've been to Gaba, the landing site. And the temples, the Baha'i temple, and the different temples around Kampala.
Nice.
Can I just say, I saw some of those photographs and I was applauding the whole time because I've taken people on tours before, and share tours.
Yeah.
And many of the places that Flo and company were going to and taking photographs, I had been to.
Yeah.
But I never gotten photos like that. Those guys took.
So they
you see it when you're there, but you don't take photos like that. You guys are good.
Yeah, the campaign was like about phone photos, phone photography, phone pics UG, for those who want to go and check it out. Phone
So
pics UG.
Hashtag phone pics you.
phone pics.
Hashtag phone pics UG.
Okay.
Then my city ride.
Hashtag my
Are you going
city
to make
ride.
postcards out of those photographs?
Well, they were to create like online content about the city, but the hashtag is going to go on for everyone that's doing phone photography around Kampala.
Come on, guys, make postcards.
Should
Then
we?
the bottom right-hand corner of the postcard, you have the hashtag. On the top bottom left-hand corner, you have the name of the person who took the hashtag, their handle, maybe
Yeah.
even their website. Then you sell. Then we earn money. Even
Then
if it's 25 shillings.
I'm going to table that at Safe Border and see what they say.
Tell them I'm not billing them for the concept. I just want like 100 free border rights per month.
All right, Sebo.
What are you going to do with 100 free voter rights per month? Aren't you a driver,
I'll
Simon?
offer them to my clients.
He doesn't even use border.
No, he says he'll give them to
I
the
don't
client.
really write them, but I'll offer them to my clients.
You have to pass
And that
them
way
back to me.
I'll be marketing Safe Border and then also getting a bit of extra. Anyway, okay, not 100, make it, 98? I don't know.
Yeah. So you see, that was the only interesting stuff with my week.
Wait a minute, Flo. I feel you're cheating us. Okay, that is the only interesting part. I saw a tweet
most
about chicken and
interesting.
chips.
I was about to mention chicken and chips, but then in my head I'm like, people are going to say I'm using my platform to advertise on it.
Yeah, it's your platform.
But we actually had a really interesting conversation this
We
week.
had interesting conversation we did a Facebook live for chicken and chips, and like you should go and watch on the Facebook page Chicken and Chips Uganda. We are talking about like the most uncensored stuff ever.
So first of all, we got over 1,500 viewers during the podcast, which I thought, or sorry, not podcast, during the Facebook Live. During the Facebook Live, which I thought was pretty awesome. And we were talking about bullying, cyberbullying, as well as like being put on pressure in your relationships and different ways of navigating that through communication. Like whether you're going to be aggressive and fight and then the person gets defensive or aggressive back, or if you'll be passive and just let it slide, or like ignore them if it's a troll, or if you're trying to like find this middle way of assertive communication, of being respectful, agreeing to disagree, but also standing up for yourself. And I feel like that is so relevant these days with what's going on the TL. So yeah, it was a good discussion. Simon, you still there? We're hearing some weird noises from you.
Is that the plane?
I don't think you should get on that plane, Simon. It sounds funny. Yo, Simon, are you still there? I think Simon turned into a robot. I told you, AI, artificial intelligence.
I the last minute and a half or someone was calling me.
Oh, you're back, man. I'm so glad. Anyway, yeah, we were just talking about communication. It was pretty cool. But yeah, what else was up with you, Flo?
Let's see. You guys, this is very. Please don't lecture me on my cartoon watching, but I watched these two cool cartoons, which I'm recommending.
Okay.
One is called Ferdinand.
Which one?
Ferdinand.
Ferdinand.
Is that Ferdinand the Clown?
Ferdinand, it's like it's an animation.
You said cartoon or animation?
Cartoons.
Isn't
Aren't they
it
the same?
Is there a difference?
There's a difference. Technically, there's a difference.
What's the difference?
Okay, please tell us. What is the difference
I'm not
between
going to tell you
cartoons?
what I can't remember the differences, but then I mean, today maybe they're the same, but in the past there was technically a difference between the two.
This is the Lugezi Gezi section of our podcast, everybody. The difference
Yeah.
between cartoons and animations coming to you from Simon Cajero.
Hey guys, why don't we meet in the skies? Meeting in the skies.
The animations were a whole different animal from cartoons.
You never know. Maybe we'll tweet this out and someone will reply and say, Simon was totally correct. You ladies don't know
Yeah.
what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So let's
So, Anne, you're not telling us what happened with you, though.
Oh, yeah.
Anne is dodging this question.
No, actually, I've had an interesting week. So first of all, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts. Thank you, Simon, for introducing me to this world. The international ones that are really like that I'm finding so interesting are Freakonomics. I really like Freakonomics.
Economics, very
Yeah.
good.
All
Yes.
numbers.
Yeah, well, I learned something from them every time. I was listening to one about women and how when women get to the top levels of businesses, like CEO, board level, they tend to be working in businesses that are failing. Like there's more of a chance that women or minorities as well, by which they mean like anyone of color, get given jobs when they're in a really bad state. And it reminded me of when Obama got the presidency.
Wait. They give them when the business is failing
Yeah.
or like something. is
Yeah,
not
like
going right.
like the business is
crisis time.
collapsing and it's in crisis, and then they're like, okay, let's try a woman.
What?
Remember when Obama became president and there were those headlines like "Black man given worst job in the world"
Yeah,
because
yeah.
the economy was collapsing and everything.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was interesting. Also, I've been enjoying. I think it's called Revisionist History.
Revisionist history.
Yeah, by Malcolm
Okay, now,
Gladwell.
It's interesting, Anne, that your foray into the podcast world starts with those two specific podcasts because they both have the same format, same theme. Here, you're listening to podcasts done by two very intelligent people
Yeah.
talking to a group of other very intelligent people about things that are not obvious to everybody else
Right.
and breaking them down in a way that makes it seem like, oh, what? All along?
Yeah, I love that. I'm really enjoying it. Though that's not the only type of podcast I've listened to. I've also listened to two Ugandan podcasts. One of them is Wurira. Is that how you say it? Wurira.
Wurira.
Yeah, that one has like Godiva and Jackie Kemigisha. They're talking about history, like African and specifically Ugandan history of women mostly. And I find it so interesting to hear about these different women who are involved in politics and developing the country and different things that happen. So that one's worth checking out. It's WULIRA, Ugandan podcast.
And what platform are you using to find this?
Well, I found it through Twitter, but I'm listening to it on SoundCloud.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the last one I just found out about is called 3x4, and it's got I think Bugsy and B-Wall and Ophelia and someone else, I can't remember. So yeah, I'm enjoying podcasts this week, and then in addition to that, you guys know like sometimes I do editing and writing for UNICEF.
Yeah.
So I'm working on editing this long report right now that analyzes how Ugandan law conforms with the child rights that are agreed by the UN Convention on Child Rights, and they analyze it in a lot of depth. And there's all sorts of interesting things in there. Like, for example, the marriage and divorce law of Uganda as it is now, not the one that they've been debating because it's not passed yet, but the old one, it says things like only a man can divorce a woman for adultery. A woman cannot divorce a man for adultery.
Is that changing?
That's so Ugandan. I don't know. It's like, what? And then also...
Madam, it's not just Ugandan.
Well...
That is cultural. It's,
cultural. Sure.
Yeah.
But it's...
And laws are formed because of the circumstances of a society at a certain given time. Well, in what year was that law written?
I can't remember, but I think the 30s or something. It's pretty old. Yeah,
when traditional marriages were the norm.
Yeah, and also the colonists were in there with their patriarchy as well.
They need to revise these laws.
Guys, wait, there's another side to this same law, which is that only men only women can ask for alimony. That is financial support after marriage. They don't allow men to ask for financial support. So again,
That's
because
fair.
back in the day,
That's fair.
because back in the day, guess what? Who was expected to be in formal employment?
Yeah.
Who was the breadwinner, not just in Uganda but everywhere in the world?
Yeah, men. But it's not like that anymore,
and again,
guys.
The reason those
like
things
we want
need to be
equality.
changed is because society has changed.
Yeah, true. Society has changed, so the law is being debated.
We want equality. We want men to take our property that we've worked hard for.
There was one other law. Wait a second, I'm
Well
confused.
said.
What just happened there?
No, like I'm meaning the fact that they want only the women to receive support from the guys, but then we are trying to get to a level where like balanced equations.
Yeah, like if whoever has more money should support the one who has less, within reason,
No,
right?
that's
how I see
that's
it.
not how it works. There's a twist to this entire thing. You know that one way in which people have been getting around that alimony clause is upkeep and responsibility arrangement.
Yeah.
Like when people are going through divorce situations, families are breaking up. There's the alimony factor. I need to give her money to live her life. While
Yeah.
discussing that alimony, you're giving her money not to go to the salon and be a slave queen alongside Flo, but you get into the discussion of what are you going to use the money for? Are you going to pay school fees for the children?
Right.
Are you going to pay rent for the home? Are you going to,
Yeah.
So both those things are factored in, and then you find that if in the discussions or the arguments, if the woman is well employed, let's say, or well looked after, then both contribute to different things, and you'll say, Madam, I'm contributing to this, you're contributing to that. So in a sense, she's also kind of, it's not strictly alimony, but she's putting up as well as the guy is.
Yeah. Well, okay, so there was one other thing in there that caught my attention. So apparently
Yeah.
there's a mental health law in debate in Ugandan parliament now. And
Good.
and one I mean it's needed and but anyway, so there was one clause about people being forcibly brought to a mental hospital, like when they're having a breakdown, right? And to decide what is worthwhile to take this person and take away their liberty and put them in healthcare for their mental health. They said that it is if someone is risking damaging property or reputation. Which then the report was suggesting is probably not the best way to look at it, because what about being harming yourself or others, which is how it's usually seen. But in the Ugandan context, it was damaging property or reputation. So and then you think and that's your own or someone else's. So this person, someone like Stella Nyanzi could be damaging someone else's reputation, and they can say that
And
is
therefore gets
a
committed.
reason to give her mental health hold. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
So are they working to reform these laws?
So the report was giving recommendations, saying this is the legal environment in Uganda, not talking about implementation, by the way, only the letter of the law. And then how does it relate to the international obligations that Uganda has signed up for? And then suggesting, these are the things that you can tweak in the law in order to make it a little
So
bit
were
more.
you giving suggestions as well, or they already suggested and you just
No,
compiling
it was
that?
experts who were giving the suggestions. My job was just copy editing, going through so many pages and seeing, is the comma correct or whatever. Yeah.
But Flo, it's good you raised that, because Anna is going to tell you that it would be a good idea for you, from what you read, to write a couple of blogs and also make your suggestions. Many Ugandans don't realize that that's what we are supposed to do. All citizens have a duty, not just a right, a duty, a responsibility to point out these changes, make suggestions, and we do that through our representatives, members of parliament.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why their primary job is legislation.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
and they can't be expected to have all the ideas. They come to us for the ideas, or we go to them and give them ideas.
I think I'll share the report with some of my friends in Parliament as well as my friends anywhere in Uganda. But what you said about me writing blogs on how Ugandan
Anne has friends in Parliament.
Shush.
Eh?
Don't you also
in high
say
Growing up in the world, eh?
Come on, guys. Kampala is a small town.
Flo, you're in the presence of a celeb
People
right
in
now.
high places. I know people in
Influencer.
high places.
Oh, whatever. We all do, guys. There's someone around. Anyways, but what I'm saying is, Simon, I don't think it's a good idea for me to be telling Ugandans how to change their laws.
Yeah, they will think she's doing liggy.
I tried talking about feminism once.
No. And, okay, listen, the way you do it doesn't have to be, hi, I'm Whitehead, I think you need to be doing this. We'll deport you. We'll show you how to do it, where you put ideas out, even through people like Flo. Okay? If you write a blog post and you're comparing, people read this stuff and realize, wait, you mean, in Canada, this is what happens? That's interesting. And then what's the result? But what's Canada like? There's so many ways of getting views across.
Yeah.
And Uganda, all views are welcome. No, not all, most.
Most.
We don't have
so
to adopt
these
them,
days.
but we like listening.
Yeah, I think people like to argue a lot these days. I think it's very easy to get into
Just
it.
for the
that's
sake
a
of
fact.
it.
Anyway,
Yeah,
so
but
I
what you
mean,
do is you don't get yourself into an argument. That's why if you wrote a nice, innocuous blog post and then allowed a certain conversation to run, believe you me, many of these views will come up. Yeah.
okay.
Many people who've gone through divorce and then found that they are being asked to pay alimony will say, but why, when my wife is unwell? We got a divorce because I didn't have a job, and she said I was too broke. She had a job. How am I being the one
Right?
told to pay her?
Yeah.
You see, yeah? Yeah, people will come up and say these things.
So I have one more thing I wanted you to explain to me about Uganda, but before that, Simon,
Yeah.
anything else you want to share? Any traffic or craziness happening in your life this week?
Any
no
gate man
craziness as such,
disturbing you?
but what about the weather, you people? The rain.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, it's chilly.
It's great. I love it.
Yeah. I'm enjoying it.
I
as
don't
well.
like the floods, but I really love this weather.
Oh,
First
man.
of all, I just like rain and the cold weather. But then, it also helps, going back to the beginning, agriculture.
True. True,
Yeah.
true.
So you're
So we
worried
spent a lot of time
about
talking
your
about
crops.
how many more crops we are going to get.
Give me my seedlings and I start.
There you go, Flo. Next week, round 1.
Awesome. I want like weekly blog posts on the growth of these things. Maybe you
Like
can.
now I've set up this, now I've done this, now.
Have you heard that playing different types of music can make plants grow differently?
Sure, that slow, boring music, they grow very slow. Honeybees seeds will be like already up there.
You think so? Maybe we should give it some
So
seed.
you'll be disappointed. Because most florists in Europe play classical music for their plants.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Hey guys, why don't we meet in the skies? Meeting in the skies.
All right, before I lose you, Simon, I had this situation that drove me just crazy the other day, and I feel like a bad person, but I feel like I have to figure out whether I'm a bad person or it's just like something bad happened. So, okay, so here's the situation. So I live with a Ugandan family, yeah? And the thing about living with the Ugandan family is that a lot of people are flowing in and out of the house, whatever. And I have this child. She's not my child by birth, but I've been raising her for a few years now with her mom, who's like my best friend. And she's 7. She's in school. And she's made a friend who comes over after school now. And I've noticed that the parents are like, cool, we send our daughter over there. We don't have to pick her up so quickly, and it works out. Then I found that the child, I guess they were late on her school fees. They left her at our house for a week, and this child is an eater. She loves to eat. She ate everything I bought every single day. Then,
Children tend to do.
so after a week of this, I'm thinking, geez, I'm tired. Maybe I hope this kid, what can we do so this kid goes back to school? Then 4 kids of this same family show up, and they don't communicate. There's no kind of deal here. They just drop the kids in the morning and leave. They don't even come in to say hello. And so we have 4 kids now running around this home office. By the way, we're doing work there, or trying to. And they're eating everything, and they're screaming, and we're like trying to call the parents. They're not picking the phone. And we're just wondering, what is this? Like,
That's irresponsible.
I know that I know that it's a more communal society in Kampala, but is this
Not that
okay?
communal.
Am I supposed to be taking
Not
care of
that
someone
communal.
else's kids like this?
Flo's telling you as it is. That's
Not
just bad
that
manners on the
communal.
part of the parents.
That's like going overboard.
Yeah. And by the way, are they spending the night at your place?
No, well, once or twice, yes, they did. But usually the parents just kind of like honk from the gate, and the kids come in and out, and they're not even communicating.
Wait a minute.
with
Did you
us.
say honk? They use a car?
Yeah.
And you guys are just being negligent and lazy. Please grab those kids, take them back, and tell the parents, hi, us guys are going to be away for 3 weeks, so first be with
I
these
think
children.
those parents
Then
thought
when we
like,
come back, we are bringing you some children. Yeah, they're taking you for granted because you're allowing them. It's not a Ugandan thing at all.
Exactly. It's not a Ugandan thing. It's not. And like Annie
No.
and her housemate were being too nice to these people. First of all, at my house, you would never even stay there more than a day. Because I'm not going to be around. I'm not going to be around like to look after anyone when I'm running up and down. And Anne is always running up and down. So who were they expecting to babysit their kids?
Yeah.
So yeah, take that guy.
Okay. So this is is this something that happens in Uganda?
It does not happen in Uganda. It's not like a Ugandan thing.
Did I
Where
get cut off? Okay, I'm back.
Yeah, you're back.
first of all, it can happen if like they're relatives, but also it's rare. Relatives like
Yeah.
they communicate and tell you like the kids are coming for this and this, let them stay around for a week or something. Like they usually send kids to like their aunties or their grandparents or
Under an arrangement, not just.
yeah, arranged. Not like
No, no.
that's irresponsible parenting.
And there's also a criminal element to this. Supposing you go looking for those parents and find they've left the country.
Mm-hmm.
Then what are you going to
And she'll be a kidnapper.
Oh god.
take no risks, step back and make
So I just need to lock my gate, and these kids are not coming in.
And like, I feel like you tolerated it for so long because the first, how many days? 5 days? You should have said something at that time, especially if you asked your housemate and she said, if your housemate had told you like she has nothing to do with it, you should have done that the first time.
Okay, I can.
I'm going in now.
Yeah. All right, we're losing you, Simon.
All right.
Cool. Thanks, man. Take
All
care
right,
of yourself.
ciao.
See you next week. Bye. Well, that was our week. The craziness, the beautiful view, and the passion cheesecake, along with some mad parenting and some strange laws. And
But that's not Ugandan at all. Never. So, Anna, I wanted to tell you about this. I had forgotten about it when Simon was online.
Okay.
But so I have this friend who is in town and is doing different stories around. He's a journalist.
Okay.
Doing different stories around town. So he spent 2 weeks at a refugee camp in Bidi. Is it Bidi refugee camp?
Okay.
And he was there the whole week and then told me he wants to do some more stories around Kampala before he goes back to his country. And then I suggest him like some positive stories and stuff.
Right.
And he's like, no, those are not special. Those are good stories, but they are not special. So I
What's
told
special?
him, I'm like, so the problem is that most international media and like journalists from these different international media outlets want stories that like, okay, refugee camp, so much hunger, so much disease, blah, blah, blah.
So true.
But then they can't do like positive stories because Kampala, I told him Kampala is known as like a party city of Africa. Like, why don't you find something like to write about that? Because the world, not the whole world knows about that. So he's like, well, those are good stories, but they're not special. Special.
What does special mean?
That's
the
what
thing is, I think it's the exact opposite of what he's saying. Because if everyone is writing about refugee camps and terrible things
Exactly.
happening, then special would be something different than that, right?
Exactly.
But I've had this so many times. I've worked a lot with international journalists in Kampala, and every time, say they want to do a profile piece of some celebrity or whatever, they're like, oh, can we film from like Kisenyi? Or like, what was the poorest you've ever been in your life? Can we go back there? And it's like,
Can you
but
imagine?
that's not who the person
they're
is,
not
you know?
portraying. Now imagine getting Navio and you're telling him, can we film in Katwe?
And to
or
be honest,
Kamocha?
that happens so much. Sometimes we call it out, sometimes we don't. Like we
Yeah.
all love French Montana and his song,
Yeah.
yet think about the music video. Exact same thing. He's
Yeah.
like, let's go find a slum and some really poor looking
Yeah.
kids and they
And
dance
like
and they're
the-
happy.
yeah.
And that's our portrayal of Kampala. You're not going to see Acacia Mall in French Montana's video. I actually saw him at Jabba's in Jinja.
And-
There was no camera filming that moment.
And that other guy he came with, what's his name, Swale or something like that? He was chilling at, like he was at Serena, he was,
Right.
you know, Parliamentary Avenue. They had a convoy, like police taking them around. They didn't show that.
VVIP
They showed,
things.
yeah, they were living like VIPs. They didn't show that, and they are going like to show like, oh, this is the poorest. Like I had a problem with that, and then the person told me, those stories are not special.
But you know what it is actually? Those stories are hard to sell for those guys. Reason being that in every, okay, this is just my point of view, but I think like with all types of stories, people are looking for what confirms what they already believe. Confirmation bias, right? And so people get, also emotional stories move, they share when people are all worked up about something. So people abroad, they think that Africa is like the worst poverty and disease and war and whatever, and that's kind of what they want to see. When you show them something that is very pretty and happy and fun, I mean, happy is fine as long as there's like flies in your eyes and your clothes are all ripped up. But
And
if you're actually fashionable and everything, it kind of challenges the comfort zone that you're in, and people don't enjoy it as much. They don't see it as like, you know, as they've said before, if it bleeds, it leads. Like it's the crisis and the terrible times.
Yeah.
You know, that's what they want.
But we have to change this narrative. Actually, African journalists have to change it and put out. I think I've seen of late, like there are some people putting out like positive stories, like the Africa that's not shown to the world.
Like CNN African Voices, for example, does a lot of that.
Yeah. So we need more people to put out the facts, because these journalists come in Kampala, sleep in the Serena or Sheraton, and then go and fish these stories in the ghetto and are saying like Uganda is like this or like this. That's
You know
unfair.
what? There's two types of international journalists in Kampala. One is the guy who came from England or whatever. It's like his first or fifth time here, but he's, you know, like you said, in Serena, blah, blah, blah. The other is the stringers, who are actually Ugandans, and they have these little companies that then produce and sell their stories to CNN or whoever it is, right?
Yeah.
And it's those ones who are Ugandans that are still selling those crap stories that I think have the biggest kind of responsibility in a way.
journalists and
Because they should know
storytellers.
better. Yeah, you know, like I think there's journalists in Uganda who speak to a Ugandan audience, and they're already telling a lot of great stories. For example, Daudi Ogutu and of Sanyu FM, and he has all this other stuff going on, including Koi Koi. Like he's all about telling positive stories of Uganda, which I'm fully behind. But then there's also guys who their job is they charge quite a bit of money. They package these stories and they send them to the foreign outlets.
Yeah.
And those ones are in a position to make this change. You know, they're in the position
So
to say,
do you know any like such people here?
Yeah, I know several of them.
Are you naming them?
I don't want to like shame them. I think some of them are doing, they're trying, you know, they are actually doing some positive stories. For example, whenever we work with Breakdance Project Uganda, we tend to get some CCTV, BBC, whatever out there, and they like that there's, because it's inspirational. These kids, at least you know that they're probably poor, right? So it still fits that narrative. But now they're a bit fashionable, they're talented, they're having fun, they're competing, they have all these dance moves and skills. Like it's moving in that direction of a more positive story.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I've been keeping my eye on this. I think it's getting better, to be honest.
Yeah, it's getting better.
Yeah, but
We
it's
just
still
need
a problem.
like more people to not come like with expectation of disaster.
Well, here's the other thing, Flo. Those guys who come from far, they've already pitched their story to their editor in wherever country it is. So they got their budget and their plane ticket and everything based on, I'm going to go and find, like I heard a story of some guy pitched a story to his bosses that he was going to find human sacrifice in Uganda. And so he came, he had his budget, he came down here. He looked around, he didn't actually find any human sacrifices. So he started paying people to like dig up the bones of previous human sacrificed people, or like go concoct stories that weren't fresh and real, you know, just because he had to tell that story that he had pitched earlier.
Yeah.
So the process can be messed up as well, you know.
Yeah.
It's like he was under
So
pressure.
what happened to him?
I think he just showed his fake human sacrifice story. Yeah.
And then like
and then
did the
continued
agency
with
know?
life.
Did they?
No, they were cool with it. As far as I know, I think it all worked out for him. But you know, I should find out what his name is and stuff. Maybe we can name and shame. Oh man!
Oh my goodness.
But the guy was under pressure. You know, that's life.
Yeah.
So what are you gonna tell your friend, or what's he gonna do? Is he just gonna stick with the slum story?
So he already has like some. He already did the refugee camp thing, the Sudanese refugees in Bidi, and then he's trying to do some rehabilitation centers around Kampala.
Okay.
And I think a boxing club. I'm actually going to show you some because I don't know where they are found. And
Okay.
yeah.
Cool. Well, the boxing club sounds like it's going somewhere.
Yeah, that sounds good. But like I wanted him to put like whatever. So I suggested to him to attend Nyege Nyege so that he sees like the biggest festival.
The madness.
Yeah, and then he can do a story like that because he's even more interested in photography than.
That would be cool. That would be very beneficial to Uganda because maybe someone sees
Yeah.
it and they decide they want to come out
Yeah.
here, you know, tourism.
Yeah.
But honestly, the cruel truth is that white people off in Europe or whatever, they want to see Africans suffering and helpless because it makes them feel more important that they can come and help, or they, you know, are somehow, you know, superior in, you know, the way that they're living. They must have gotten there through their awesomeness,
Yeah.
and now it's on them to save the world. And there's this like, that sounds cynical, but subconsciously it's there. And so it's harder to pitch these positive stories than to pitch stories that just reaffirm the idea that that, Africa needs the Europeans. It makes someone watches that and they feel self-important. They're like, I'm going to help just one child and my life will have meaning, right?
And I feel like some of them feel like if they show this, I don't know if they feel like it's a way of putting down Africans, like showing them in that
It's
kind of
patronizing,
manner. Like showing them like, see, this and this and this and this is happening in your place. That's not nice.
I don't think most people see it so clearly. I think a lot of it is subconscious, but it's there. But it's also changing. I mean, the Black Panther movie there's a lot of indications of, African diaspora and African culture being more respected internationally. So I hope it continues in that direction.
All right.
Well, on that note, it's been good chatting with you, Flo. We lost Simon to the flight. May he travel safe and happily.
Yeah.
And you guys as well. Have an awesome week. We look forward to sharing more ideas with you soon. Please don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Meeting in the Skies and send us messages. I'm Whitehead Com. Flo is
At Kakashozi.
And we've got
with a T in there.
And Simon Cajero is Scajero. So engage with us. We'd love to hear what you'd like us to say next. Bye, guys.
That has been this week's episode. Thanks to the Skies Hotel Naguru. For more interesting Kabozi, please tune in to Meeting in the Skies next week. See you then.